Jake Morrison floated in the observation deck of Haven Point, watching Earth turn slowly below. The orbital research station had been his home for 6 months, and he never got tired of the view. Cities sparkled like jewels across the continents, connected by streams of light that showed humanity's progress. He did not know that 300 light-years away, the Zephyrian Collective was voting on humanity's fate. High Arbiter Vexthalan stood before the council chamber, his forearms spread wide as he addressed the gathered species. "The humans advanced too quickly," he said in his clicking voice. "In just 2 centuries, they have gone from simple agriculture to spaceflight. Their aggression is well documented. We have seen their wars, their weapons, their hunger for expansion." The council members shifted uneasily. Some remembered the last species that had grown too powerful too fast. The Vaxari had nearly conquered half the galaxy before they were stopped. "The cost had been terrible. What do you propose?" asked Councillor Thisara from the water-filled tank that served as her seat. "A surgical strike," Vexthalan replied. "We disable their technology permanently. No killing, no destruction of their cities. We simply return them to a simpler time. They will survive, but they will never threaten the galaxy." The vote was close, but it passed. The Zephyrian fleet moved toward Earth. On Haven Point, Jake was reviewing supply reports when the first alarm sounded. His communication officer, Lieutenant Susan Park, looked up from her console with confusion. "Sir, I'm getting strange readings from the deep space sensors. Multiple contacts approaching from the outer system." Jake pushed himself over to her station. The display showed dozens of ships far larger than anything humans had built. "How long until they reach us?" "At current speed, about 6 hours." Jake felt his stomach drop. First contact with aliens should have been cause for celebration, but something about their approach felt wrong. No communication attempts, no response to human signals. They were coming in dark and silent. "Send an emergency transmission to Earth Command," Jake ordered. "Tell them we have visitors and they don't seem friendly." Down on Earth, Dr. Lisa Grant was deep underground in her Colorado laboratory. She had been working on quantum communication systems, trying to find ways to send messages instantly across vast distances. Her work was still experimental, but it showed promise. The emergency alert from Haven Point reached Earth Command just as Lisa was running her latest test. Within minutes, every military base, government facility, and research station on the planet was buzzing with activity. Colonel Rick Hayes sat in the NORAD command center, studying the incoming data. 47 ships, he muttered. Each one bigger than our largest carrier. What the hell do they want? His aide, Captain Laura Bell, pointed to the tactical display. "Sir, they're positioning themselves around the planet. Perfect orbital coverage. Like they're surrounding us," Rick realized. He grabbed his phone and started making calls. If this was an invasion, humanity needed to be ready. But the Zephyrians were not planning an invasion. They were planning something much more subtle. Vexthalan stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. The blue and green world looked so peaceful, so innocent. It was hard to believe such a dangerous species lived there. "Charge the pulse generators," he ordered. "Target all electronic infrastructure. I want every circuit, every satellite, every piece of advanced technology disabled." His weapons officer, a tall being with silver skin, looked uncertain. "High Arbiter, the pulse will also damage their medical equipment, their transportation systems. Many humans may die. Better than the billions who would die if we let them continue their expansion." Vexthalan replied coldly. "Fire when ready." Jake Morrison was in the middle of a video call with Earth Command when the wave hit. One moment he was looking at Colonel Hayes on the screen, and the next moment everything went dark. Emergency lighting flickered on for a few seconds, then died. The pulse rolled across Earth like an invisible tide. Satellites went dead. Power grids collapsed. Cars stopped working. Planes fell from the sky. In the span of 10 minutes, human civilization was thrown back 200 years. But the Zephyrians had made their first mistake. They had studied human technology, but they had not studied human nature. In her underground laboratory, Lisa Grant watched her equipment die around her. But the quantum communicator, still experimental and shielded by layers of rock and metal, flickered back to life after a few minutes. She stared at it in amazement. "Impossible," she whispered. "The quantum entanglement should have been broken." She quickly began checking other systems. Most were dead, but a few hardened pieces of equipment were still working. The military had built some things to survive electromagnetic attacks. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Across the planet, humans were experiencing the same thing Lisa was seeing. Not everything was destroyed. Hidden bunkers still had power. Underground cables still carried signals. Ham radio operators with older equipment found they could still communicate. On Haven Point, Jake Morrison floated in complete darkness. The station was dead, life support failing. But he was not panicking. He was thinking. The attack had been precise, surgical. The aliens wanted humans alive but helpless. That was their second mistake. Jake felt his way to an emergency locker and pulled out a manual radio. The kind rescue teams used, built to work even after disasters. He cranked the handle to generate power and began broadcasting. "This is Haven Point calling any station. We are alive up here. The aliens are still in orbit. They're watching us." Far below, Lisa Grant heard his voice through the static. She grabbed her own radio and responded. "Haven Point, this is Colorado Deep Lab. We're alive down here too. And we're not giving up." Across the world, other voices joined the conversation. A submarine captain in the Pacific, a research team in Antarctica, a group of amateur radio operators in Japan. The aliens had tried to silence Earth, but humans were still talking. Vex Thalan watched the sensor readings with growing concern. The planet below should have been dark and quiet. Instead, he was detecting radio transmissions. Weak ones scattered across the globe, but they were there. "How is this possible?" he demanded. His science officer studied the data. "It appears the humans had backup systems. Hardened electronics designed to survive electromagnetic attack. They are more prepared than we thought." Vexthalan felt a chill run down his spine. "Monitor those transmissions. If they try to rebuild their technology, we will pulse them again." But deep in his mind, a terrible thought was growing. What if they had awakened something dangerous? What if crippling human technology had only made humans angry? On Earth, the voices in the darkness were growing stronger. Humans were talking, planning, organizing. The aliens had expected silence after their attack. Instead, they had given humanity something it had never had before: a single uniting enemy. The war for Earth's freedom had begun. 3 weeks after the pulse, the world above ground looked like a graveyard. Cars sat empty on highways. Planes had crashed wherever the pulse caught them. Cities were dark except for the occasional candle or fire. But beneath the surface, something incredible was happening. Colonel Rick Hayes stood in the NORAD command center, 700 feet underground. The old Cold War bunker was alive with activity. Soldiers and technicians worked by the light of battery-powered lamps, connecting cables and testing equipment. The mountain facility had been built to survive nuclear war, and it had survived the alien pulse too. "Status report," Rick called out to his team. Captain Laura Bell looked up from a bank of radios. "We have contact with 17 military installations worldwide. The Russians are online from their bunkers. The Chinese have a facility in Tibet that survived. Even the British have a team operating from an old World War II bunker in London." Rick nodded. The aliens had knocked out the surface, but they had forgotten about humanity's long history of digging deep and hiding from enemies. "What about civilian networks?" "That's the surprising part, sir. We're getting reports from all over. Amateur radio operators, emergency services, even some universities with underground facilities. The humans are talking to each other." In Tokyo, Maya Sato crawled through the subway tunnels beneath the dead city. She had been a transportation engineer before the pulse, responsible for keeping the trains running. Now she was using those same tunnels for something the aliens never expected. The subway system had its own power grid, separate from the city above. Most of it was dead, but Maya had found sections that could still work. More importantly, the tunnels connected to basements, underground shopping areas, and maintenance facilities all across the city. She emerged into a basement workshop where 20 people were waiting for her. They were workers, students, and retirees who had refused to give up. On tables around the room, they had spread out electronic parts salvaged from the surface. "The aliens are jamming radio frequencies above ground," Maya explained to the group. "But down here, with the metal and concrete blocking their signals, we can communicate. I've mapped a network of tunnels that connects to similar groups across the city." An elderly man named Mr. Tanaka held up a modified radio. "My grandson taught me about electronics before he left for university. These old vacuum tube designs, they work even after electromagnetic pulses." "We can build more," Maya smiled. The aliens had studied human technology, but they had not studied human stubbornness. Humans had been preparing for disaster for decades. Every country had emergency plans, hidden supplies, and backup systems. In London, Nick Campbell led his team through the abandoned underground tunnels. The former SAS operative had been visiting the city when the pulse hit. Now he was doing what special forces did best, adapting and surviving. His team had found an old government bunker from the Second World War. It was deep, well-supplied, and completely unknown to the aliens above. Better yet, it connected to a network of tunnels that reached across the city. The surface is crawling with alien scouts, Nick reported over his radio to other resistance cells. Small flying machines about the size of birds. They're watching the roads and buildings, but they don't seem to know about the underground. From his bunker, he could coordinate salvage operations across the city. Teams would wait until dark, then quickly grab electronics, tools, and supplies from abandoned buildings. The aliens noticed some movement, but they seemed to think it was just desperate humans looking for food. They were wrong. Humans were looking for weapons. In a basement in San Francisco, 18-year-old Alex Chen worked with equipment that belonged to his grandfather. The old man had been a radio operator during the Vietnam War and had never thrown away his vintage equipment. When the pulse hit, those ancient radios were among the few things that still worked. Alex had been studying computer programming before the attack. Now he was learning something more useful: how to rebuild civilization from scratch. His grandmother helped him understand the old analog systems, while he figured out how to modify them with parts from dead computers. The aliens don't understand human redundancy, he explained to other young people who had joined his group. Every system we build with backups. Military networks, civilian networks, emergency networks. They knocked out the main systems, but they missed the backups to the backups. His modified radio could reach stations around the world. Better yet, he had figured out how to use the old telephone lines that ran underground between buildings. The aliens were jamming radio waves from space, but they could not stop signals that traveled through buried cables. Back in Colorado, Dr. Lisa Grant had turned her laboratory into the hub of a growing network. Her quantum communicators were still experimental, but they had one huge advantage. They were invisible to alien sensors. Quantum entangled particles did not use radio waves or any other detectable signal. "We have a problem," she told the scientists working with her. "The aliens are learning. They're starting to jam the radio frequencies we've been using. We need something they can't detect or block." Dr. Ben Martinez, a physicist from the nearby university, held up a strange device he had built. "What about this? It's a quantum transmitter using parts from the old particle accelerator. If we can get a few of these to other locations, we can have instant communication that the aliens can't even see." Lisa stared at the device. It was crude, built from salvaged parts and held together with tape and wire. But it worked. More importantly, it was based on physics that the aliens did not seem to understand. "How many can we build?" "With the parts we have, maybe a dozen. But if other labs around the world have similar equipment..." Lisa grabbed her radio. It was time to share some very important information. Within days, the quantum communication network was growing. Scientists in hidden laboratories around the world were building transmitters using whatever they could find. A team in Germany used parts from a medical scanner. Researchers in Australia modified equipment from a physics lab. A group in Canada built theirs using components from a crashed satellite. Colonel Rick Hayes watched the network grow from his command center. The aliens thought they were monitoring scattered groups of desperate humans. They had no idea that Earth now had a communication system more advanced than anything humans had possessed before the attack. "Sir," Captain Bell called out excitedly, "we're getting reports from orbit. Jake Morrison is still alive up there, and he has some very interesting information about the alien ships." From the dead research station Haven Point, Jake Morrison had spent 3 weeks watching the aliens. Without power, they could not detect his observations. He had learned their patrol patterns, their shift changes, and most importantly, their weaknesses. "The big ships stay in high orbit," he reported through a quantum link. "But they send small scouts down to the surface. Those scouts are lightly armed and not heavily shielded. If we could build something to reach them..." Lisa Grant's voice came through the network from Colorado. "We can. I have teams reverse engineering alien technology from crashed scout ships. It's not easy, but we're learning." Around the world, the underground network was becoming something extraordinary. What had started as scattered groups of survivors was evolving into a coordinated resistance. They shared information, resources, and most importantly, hope. The aliens above had no idea what was happening below their feet. They saw a dead world with some scavenging survivors. They did not see the workshops, the laboratories, the communication networks, and the growing anger of an entire species that refused to surrender. Maya Sato stood in her tunnel network in Tokyo, looking at a map covered with red dots. Each dot represented a hidden base, a workshop, or a communication node. There were hundreds of them now, all connected, all working toward the same goal. The aliens made a mistake, she told her team. They thought they could make us helpless by taking away our technology. But they forgot that we built that technology in the first place, and we can build it again. Above ground, alien scouts reported that the human population seemed to be settling into a quiet, primitive existence. Below ground, humanity was preparing for war. The message that changed everything went out at exactly 12 noon Greenwich Mean Time, broadcast from 17 hidden transmitters across 6 continents. The words were simple, transmitted in dozens of languages, but their meaning was clear to every human on Earth. We are still here. We are still human. And we remember how to fight. In the Zephyrian command ship, High Arbiter Vexthalin listened to the translation with growing alarm. For 6 weeks, his scouts had reported that the humans were adapting to their new primitive conditions. Small groups were scavenging for food and supplies, but there was no sign of organized resistance. The coordinated broadcast proved that report was completely wrong. How is this possible? Vexthalin demanded of his intelligence officer. Our sensors show no large power sources on the planet's surface. Their communications infrastructure was completely destroyed. The intelligence officer, a thin being with pale green skin, studied the data with obvious confusion. The broadcasts came from multiple locations simultaneously. They appear to be using some kind of quantum entanglement system that our sensors cannot detect. Vexthalin felt ice form in his stomach. Quantum communication was advanced technology, far beyond what humans should have been capable of even before the pulse. Send scout teams to investigate these broadcast locations immediately, but the humans had expected that response. Commander Elena Rodriguez crouched in the ruins of an old mining complex, high in the Andes Mountains. The remote location had been chosen carefully, far from major cities, difficult to reach, and honeycombed with natural caves and abandoned tunnels that provided perfect hiding places. Her team of 40 volunteers came from around the world. Former soldiers, engineers, pilots, and even a few teenagers who had proven remarkably good at understanding alien technology. They all shared one thing. They were absolutely furious at being treated like helpless primitives. Contact from Scout Team 3, reported her communications officer, a young woman named Katie Ross who had been a satellite technician before the pulse. Alien scouts approaching from the south. 3 small ships flying low. Elena smiled. Perfect. Are the decoys in position? Yes, ma'am. The fake transmitter is broadcasting from the old mining office. Should draw them right where we want them. Elena had spent weeks studying the alien scouts. They were fast, well-armed for their size, but they had one crucial weakness. They were arrogant. They expected no real resistance from the primitive humans below. That was about to change. The alien scout ships swept down from the mountains like hunting birds. Their sensors had detected the source of the quantum broadcasts, and they were moving to investigate. The lead pilot, a young Zephyrian named Kethval, was eager to prove himself to his superiors. Target acquired, he reported to his wingmates. Old human structure, possibly their communication center. Beginning attack run. He did not see the carefully hidden positions around the mining complex. He did not notice that the building below was empty except for a single radio transmitter. And he certainly did not expect the stream of rockets that suddenly rose from the mountainside to meet him. Elena's teams had spent weeks building the weapons. They were crude by alien standards, essentially large fireworks with explosive heads, but they were based on technology that was over a century old. The aliens' shields were designed to stop energy weapons and modern missiles. They were not calibrated for simple chemical explosives traveling at relatively low speeds. The first scout ship exploded in a ball of fire and metal. The second pilot tried to climb away, but another volley of rockets caught him. The third ship managed to escape, but not before Katie Ross's team had gotten a good look at its design with a telescope. Target down. Target down, Elena shouted into her radio. First blood to the humans. The message spread across the global network in minutes. From the tunnels of Tokyo to the bunkers of London, from the laboratories of Colorado to the command centers buried beneath mountains, humans heard the same incredible news. They had just shot down alien spacecraft. Vestan stared at the wreckage scattered across his command screen. 2 scout ships destroyed, 1 damaged and barely escaped. The humans had not just survived their technology being destroyed. They had already built new weapons and used them with deadly effectiveness. Analysis of the attack? He demanded. His weapons expert studied the sensor data. Chemical explosives, high arbiter. Solid fuel rockets with conventional warheads. Very primitive technology but effective against our scout ship's shielding. How is that possible? Our shields are designed to defend against plasma weapons, particle beams, and nuclear missiles. These human weapons use simple chemical reactions that our systems barely recognize as threats. Vestan realized with horror that they had made a terrible mistake. In trying to reduce humans to a primitive state, they had not made them helpless. They had made them dangerous in ways the Zephyrians had never prepared for. On Earth, the successful attack triggered something that had been building for weeks. All over the planet, hidden human bases launched their own strikes against alien scouts. Most failed. The aliens quickly learned to stay higher and move faster. But some succeeded. In Australia, a team led by former Air Force pilot Captain Sam Rodriguez used a modified weather balloon to deliver explosives to an alien ship. In Russia, engineers in a Siberian bunker launched a rocket made from salvaged missile parts. In Brazil, a group of students used a huge slingshot device to hurl explosive charges at low-flying scouts. Each successful attack taught humans more about alien technology. When the aliens retreated to higher altitudes, human engineers began building better rockets. When the aliens improved their shields, humans switched to different types of weapons. Dr. Lisa Grant's laboratory became the center of an incredible reverse engineering effort. Her teams had recovered pieces of destroyed alien ships, and they were learning fast. The alien technology was advanced, but it was not magic. It could be understood, copied, and improved upon. The aliens use a lot of automated systems, she explained to the global network during one of their daily coordination calls. Their ships have fewer crew members than ours would. That's a weakness we can exploit. Dr. Ben Martinez had made an even more important discovery. Their computer systems are vulnerable to certain types of interference. If we can get close enough to broadcast the right signal, we can actually take control of their smaller ships. Colonel Rick Hayes coordinated the military response from his underground command center. The old soldier had fought in 3 wars, but nothing had prepared him for this. He was commanding a global resistance movement using communication technology that did not officially exist, fighting enemies that came from the stars. We need to be smart about this, he told the network. Every attack we make teaches them more about our capabilities, but it also teaches us about theirs. We're in a learning race, and whoever learns faster wins. The message that had started the resistance continued to broadcast from hidden transmitters around the world, but now it carried additional information. Technical data about alien weaknesses, coordinates of successful attacks, and instructions for building better weapons. Jake Morrison watched the war develop from his dead space station. Without power, the aliens could not detect his observations, and he had become humanity's eye in the sky. He could see the alien fleet repositioning, trying to avoid the growing number of human attacks. They're scared, he reported to the network. The big ships are moving to higher orbits. They're keeping their scouts in pairs now, never alone, and they're jamming more radio frequencies, which tells me they know we're coordinating somehow. Elena Rodriguez's mountain base had become a training center for resistance fighters from around the world. Using the quantum communication network, they shared tactics and strategies with similar bases on every continent. The aliens were facing something they had never encountered, a species that learned from every defeat and came back stronger. We're not trying to match their technology, Elena explained to a new group of volunteers. We're doing something better. We're using their own advanced systems against them in ways they never expected. She held up a piece of alien hull metal. This armor is designed to stop energy weapons, but it's actually weaker against physical impacts than steel plate. Their computers can predict and counter our missiles, but they can't handle something as simple as a big rock thrown hard enough. Around the world, human ingenuity was creating weapons that the aliens could not understand or predict. In Japan, Maya Sato's team built electromagnetic catapults that hurled metal projectiles at incredible speeds. In Germany, engineers created sonic weapons that disrupted alien navigation systems. In Canada, a team of former hockey players developed explosive pucks that could be fired from modified equipment. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow any logical pattern. Just when they adapted to one type of human attack, the humans would switch to something completely different. It was like fighting a species that had no consistent strategy, except that their lack of strategy was somehow working. Vestan stood before the collective council once again, but this time he was not confident. The situation on Earth is complicated, Captain Sam Rodriguez stood in what had once been an alien scout ship and was now humanity's first captured spacecraft. The cramped cockpit still smelled like the strange chemicals the aliens used, but human engineers had replaced most of the controls with systems they could understand. Status report, Sam called to his crew of 3. They were crammed into a space designed for one alien pilot, but they had made it work. Humans were good at making things work. Engines are green, reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from the engineering station she had built from spare parts. Weapons are charged, and the aliens still don't know we exist, Sam smiled. The alien fleet had spent 3 months adapting to human ground-based attacks. They had learned to stay higher, move faster, and never travel alone. What they had not expected was for humans to join them in space. The captured scout ship had taken 2 months to repair and modify. Dr. Lisa Grant's teams had reverse-engineered the propulsion system. Dr. Ben Martinez had cracked the computer codes, and engineers from around the world had figured out how to make alien technology work with human operators. Contacts on scope, called out radar operator Tony Clark from his improvised station. 3 alien scouts moving in formation toward the Australian continent. They're staying in the high atmosphere just like we predicted. Sam checked his weapons display. The ship's original alien guns had been replaced with human-designed systems that the enemy would not recognize until too late. Take us in. Nice and quiet. The 3 alien pilots never saw the attack coming. Their sensors were calibrated to detect other Zephyrian ships, not a scout that had been gutted and rebuilt with human technology. The first indication they had of trouble was when their formation leader simply exploded. Sam's ship tore through the remaining 2 scouts like a shark among fish. The aliens tried to run, but their ships were designed for patrol work, not combat with an enemy that knew all their weaknesses. 3 contacts down, Tony reported with satisfaction. And we're picking up their emergency transmissions. They're calling for help, but they don't know what hit them. Back on Earth, the news of the successful space attack spread through the underground network like wildfire. For the first time since the electromagnetic pulse, humans had proven they could fight the aliens on equal terms in their own element. Commander Elena Rodriguez watched the celebration in her mountain base with grim satisfaction. Don't get too excited, she warned her people. This is just the beginning. The aliens are going to adapt fast, and they have a lot more ships than we do. She was right. Within hours, the Zephyrian fleet had pulled all scouts back to the safety of the larger vessels. High Arbiter Vestan studied the sensor recordings of the attack with growing horror. The ship that attacked our scouts was one of ours, his intelligence officer reported. But the weapons signatures were completely different. Somehow the humans have captured and modified one of our vessels. Vestan felt a chill run through his body. How many scouts have we lost to ground attacks? 17 confirmed destroyed, 12 more damaged and abandoned. The humans could potentially have recovered any of those. That meant humans might have up to 12 more captured ships being prepared for attack. Vestan realized that the situation had moved far beyond what the collective had authorized. This was no longer a simple peacekeeping mission. This was war. On Earth, the war was evolving in ways that horrified the alien observers. Humans did not fight like civilized species. They had no code of honor, no respect for the rules of engagement that governed conflict between spacefaring races. They fought like animals, clever, vicious animals that used every dirty trick they could think of. General Chris Thompson coordinated the global strategy from his bunker in the Australian outback. The former Special Forces commander had studied every form of warfare humans had ever invented, and he was applying all of them against the aliens. We're not trying to win fair fights, he explained to his staff during one of their daily briefings. Fair fights are for sports. This is survival. We use every advantage we have, no matter how small or how dirty. The advantages were adding up. Human ships could operate in Earth's atmosphere in ways that alien vessels could not. Human pilots were willing to take risks that alien crews considered suicidal. And most importantly, humans were fighting for their home, while the aliens were fighting because their government told them to. The difference showed in every engagement. When human ships were outnumbered, they would ram alien vessels rather than surrender. When alien ships tried to retreat, humans would chase them into the atmosphere where the alien ships could not maneuver effectively. Dr. Lisa Grant's reverse engineering project had expanded to include weapons, systems that the aliens had never seen before. Her teams were not just copying alien technology, they were improving it and combining it with human innovations in ways that created entirely new types of weapons. The aliens use energy weapons almost exclusively, she explained, to the global network during one of their coordination calls. But energy weapons have predictable behaviors. You can shield against them, deflect them, or absorb them. Physical weapons are much harder to deal with. Her latest creation was a perfect example. It looked like a normal alien energy cannon, but it fired solid metal projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds by magnetic fields. Alien shields that could stop plasma bolts were useless against chunks of steel, moving at significant fractions of the speed of light. Maya Sato's Tokyo workshops had become weapons factories, producing modified human technology that could be installed on captured alien ships. Her teams worked around the clock building systems that combined the best of both technologies. Humans have always been good at war, she told her workers as they assembled another batch of hybrid weapons. We have fought each other for thousands of years. Now we finally have a common enemy, and we can use everything we have learned. The results were terrifying to witness. Human-modified alien ships moved in ways that seemed impossible, pulling maneuvers that should have destroyed them. Human pilots pushed their craft and themselves to limits that alien crews could not match. Nick Campbell's London operation had become a training center for what humans called asymmetric space warfare. He taught pilots from around the world how to fight enemies who had superior technology but inferior motivation. The aliens think they know how space combat works, he explained to a new class of volunteers. They have rules, formations, and procedures that have worked for thousands of years. We're going to teach them that rules are made to be broken. His graduates flew suicide missions against alien supply ships, using captured scouts packed with explosives. They set traps in Earth's asteroid belt, waiting for alien patrol ships to pass by before attacking from multiple directions at once. They even learned to hide in the shadows of Earth's moon, ambushing alien vessels that thought they were safe. The aliens tried to adapt, but every countermeasure they developed just caused humans to try something new. When the aliens started traveling in larger groups, humans built bigger bombs. When the aliens improved their shields, humans developed weapons that went around the shields instead of through them. Jake Morrison had become humanity's primary intelligence asset, still watching the alien fleet from his dead space station. His reports guided human strategy and revealed alien weaknesses as they developed. The aliens are getting nervous, he reported during one broadcast. They're moving their big ships farther away from Earth, and they're keeping their smaller ships close to the fleet. I think they're starting to realize they can't win this. But Vexathalan was not ready to admit defeat. The High Arbiter had committed the Zephyrian Collective to this course of action, and retreat would mean the end of his career, and possibly his life. Instead, he made a decision that would prove to be his final mistake. Prepare the battle fleet, he ordered. We will destroy the human resistance with overwhelming force. High Arbiter, his military advisor warned. Regulations require collective approval before engaging in full-scale warfare against a planetary population. The humans have already made this a full-scale war, Vexthalan replied coldly. I am simply acknowledging reality. The order went out to the Zephyrian home fleet. Warships that had been built to fight other spacefaring civilizations began moving toward Earth. They were massive, powerful, and crewed by professional military personnel who had never lost a battle, but they were not prepared for what they would find when they arrived. Human intelligence networks detected the approaching fleet weeks before it reached Earth. Dr. Ben Martinez's quantum communication array brought news from observers throughout the solar system. The aliens were committing everything they had to the coming battle. 47 capital ships, Colonel Rick Hayes reported to the Global Resistance Network. Each one bigger than anything humans have ever built, plus support vessels, fighters, and troop transports. They're planning to end this war by overwhelming us with force. General Thompson smiled when he heard the report. Good, let them come. We've been preparing for this. The preparations were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Humans had turned their entire planet into a weapons system. Captured alien technology had been reverse-engineered and mass-produced and hidden. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Victory, looking out at the most impossible sight in human history. Her flagship was built around the salvaged hull of a Zephyrian heavy cruiser, but it had been so extensively modified that even its original designers would not have recognized it. The ship was a symbol of everything the aliens had failed to understand about humanity. When humans found technology they could not fully comprehend, they did not give up. They took it apart, studied it, copied the parts they understood, and improved on everything else. "Status report," Kate called to her crew. Around the bridge, officers from 12 different nations worked together at stations that combined alien technology with human ingenuity. The language of command was English, but she could hear conversations in Chinese, Russian, Japanese, and Spanish as her international crew coordinated the largest military operation in human history. "All fleet elements report ready," announced Commander David Chen from the tactical station. 68 vessels in fighting condition, plus another 112 support ships. Every captured alien vessel we could repair, every modified human spacecraft we could build. Kate nodded. It had taken 2 years to reach this point. 2 years of fighting, learning, and building. The Zephyrian fleet approaching Earth was massive and professional, but the humans waiting for them were something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that had learned to wage war in space using weapons and tactics that no civilized race would consider. The final battle was not being fought in Earth's orbit. Kate had moved the human fleet to the edge of the solar system, where they would intercept the alien evacuation convoy. High Arbiter Vestan had finally received orders from the collective to withdraw from Earth, but Kate was not planning to let him leave. "Incoming transmission from the alien fleet," reported Communications Officer Lisa Park. "The High Arbiter wants to negotiate." Kate smiled coldly. "Put him on screen." Vestan appeared on the main display, looking older and more tired than he had 2 years ago. The confident alien leader who had ordered the electromagnetic pulse attack was gone, replaced by someone who clearly understood that he had made terrible mistakes. "Admiral Sullivan," he began in accented English, "I am prepared to offer terms for our withdrawal from your system. The collective has voted to end this conflict and recognize human sovereignty over Earth." "How generous," Kate replied. "And what makes you think we're interested in your terms?" "You must be reasonable," Vestan said desperately. "Our fleet is massive. Your vessels are cobbled together from salvage and stolen technology. You cannot hope to win a direct confrontation." Kate looked around at her bridge crew. Every one of them was a veteran of the 2-year war against the Zephyrians. They had started as desperate survivors hiding in bunkers and basements. Now they were the crew of the most advanced warship humanity had ever possessed. "You're right about one thing," Kate told the alien commander. "We can't hope to win a fair fight. Lucky for us, humans don't fight fair." She cut the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. "Signal the fleet. Execute Plan Omega." Captain Dan Foster flew one of the new generation of human fighters, a sleek craft that combined alien anti-gravity technology with human weapon systems that the original designers had never intended. His squadron included pilots from every nation on Earth, united under the simple promise that they would never again allow aliens to threaten their homeworld. "This is Striker 1 to all squadrons," he broadcast as his wing formed up with the main fleet. "Remember your training. The aliens fight by their rules. We fight by ours. Make them regret ever coming to our star system." The Zephyrian fleet was exactly what Kate had expected, a massive formation of warships arranged in perfect military precision. They advanced in neat rows, shields up, weapons charged, following battle plans that had been used successfully for thousands of years. They were not prepared for humanity's response. The first wave of the human attack came from the asteroid belt. For months, human engineers had been hollowing out asteroids and filling them with engines, guidance systems, and nuclear warheads. Now hundreds of these improvised missiles accelerated toward the alien fleet at incredible speeds. "Asteroid impacts incoming," Vestan's weapons officer reported. "Standard defensive fire should easily destroy them." But when the alien weapons hit the asteroids, they did not explode cleanly. Instead, they broke apart into clouds of smaller rocks, each piece carrying its own nuclear warhead. The Zephyrian shields, designed to stop organized attacks, were overwhelmed by the sheer chaos of hundreds of simultaneous impacts. The first alien ship to die was a heavy cruiser that took 7 nuclear explosions simultaneously. Its shields collapsed, its hull cracked, and atmosphere vented into space as the crew abandoned ship. Impossible, Vexthalan whispered, as he watched more of his ships suffer the same fate. No civilized species fights with such barbarism, suggested his intelligence officer. The second wave of the human attack was even worse. While the aliens were dealing with the asteroid bombardment, human ships emerged from hiding places throughout the outer solar system. They had been waiting in the shadows of planets behind moons, even disguised as space debris. Captain Sam Rodriguez led a squadron of modified alien scouts in a high-speed attack on the Zephyrian supply ships. His vessels moved in ways that should have torn them apart, pulling maneuvers that no sane pilot would attempt. But human pilots were not concerned with being sane. They were concerned with winning. Target the big ships first, Sam ordered his squadron. The aliens can't fight without supplies and fuel. Take out their logistics and the rest will follow. The alien escort ships tried to intercept the human attack, but they were not prepared for opponents who treated suicide runs as standard tactics. When Sam's fighters were outnumbered, they rammed enemy vessels rather than retreat. When they ran out of ammunition, they used their ships as guided missiles. Vexthalan watched his carefully organized fleet dissolve into chaos. How are they doing this? Our ships are superior in every way. Our crews are better trained. Our weapons are more advanced. His military advisor studied the tactical display with growing horror. High Arbiter, I believe the humans are not trying to fight us ship to ship. They are trying to destroy our ability to fight as a fleet. He was right. Human strategy ignored every accepted rule of space combat. Instead of engaging in honorable battles between equal forces, humans attacked supply lines, communication networks, and command structures. They used biological weapons that could survive in alien atmospheres. They hacked alien computer systems and turned ships against their own fleets. Most terrifying of all, they showed no mercy to enemies who tried to surrender. When Zephyrian crews abandoned their damaged ships, human fighters would hunt down the escape pods and destroy them. When alien commanders tried to negotiate local ceasefires, humans would use the pause to position for more devastating attacks. They fight like animals, Vexthalan said in disgust. No, his advisor replied quietly. They fight like a species that knows it will be exterminated if it loses. That makes them far more dangerous than any animal. The battle raged for 18 hours. By the end, the mighty Zephyrian fleet that had come to destroy Earth's resistance was scattered, broken, and demoralized. More than half their ships were destroyed or disabled. The survivors were trying desperately to escape the solar system. Admiral Kate Sullivan's fleet pursued them relentlessly. Human ships that had been built from salvaged parts and held together with determination were running down alien vessels that had cost billions of credits to construct. The hunters had become the hunted. The end came when Vexthalan's flagship was cornered near Jupiter by 3 human vessels. His ship was faster and better armed than any of his pursuers, but his crew had lost the will to fight. They had seen too many of their ships destroyed by enemies who refused to follow civilized rules of warfare. High Arbiter, his weapons officer reported. The humans are demanding our surrender. Vexthalan looked at the tactical display. His ship could probably destroy 2 of the human vessels before the third one killed him. But what was the point? Even if he won this fight, there were dozens more human ships in the system. And back on Earth, millions more humans were building new weapons and planning new attacks. Signal our surrender, he said quietly. An hour later, Vexthalan found himself sitting across from Admiral Kate Sullivan in the conference room of the Victory. The table between them was made from recycled alien hull plating, and the chairs were human designs modified to accommodate alien physiology. We expected your civilization to collapse when we destroyed your technology, Vexthalan said. His translator struggled with concepts that had no equivalent in Zephyrian language. We expected silence. Kate Sullivan smiled, and in that expression, Vexthalan could see the future of the galaxy. Humans would not be content to stay on their homeworld. They would expand to the stars, bringing their chaotic, unpredictable, utterly ruthless approach to warfare with them. You should have done your homework better, Kate replied. Humans don't go quietly into anybody's night. We drag the whole damn sky down with us if we have to. She gestured to the view screen where human ships were salvaging.